Here's the prestige gain table. This tells you how much your prestige goes up or down depending on what happens, what you do. So, first to put men on Mars and bring them back, you get 5 prestige points. First since Apollo to put men on Luna and return them, 3 prestige points. So what's the biggie here? First to establish colony at Mars, 6 prestige points. That's the biggest gain possible in here. Some gains are turn by turn. Largest, sole possession of largest mining, manufacturing, or colony in the solar system. Oh, here's an 8. First to establish a level 6 colony anywhere, 8 prestige points. Man, that is a lot of money, though. That is $90 billion to get to that point. Unless you, yeah, $90 billion. Plus. And then you got the bad stuff. People die. Well, people can't die yet. That's random events. It's going to be baked in later. And if your prestige, if you don't do anything to generate prestige on your turn, your prestige starts at -1 next turn. So now you know, progressively you get a progressively steeper hill you got to climb to get back into positive. If you sit there and try to save up money and not do diddly squat, turn after turn after turn. That punishment might have to be more severe. I don't know. I won't know until I play with other people. I have one person in mind in my regular group who is going to do that. He's going to sit there and save his money up and wait and see what he can get away with cheaply later. And that one person may demonstrate the need to increase that penalty to -2. We'll see. The other thing is the advanced systems. So you've got, so far what I have, although I already know what I'm going to do with, I have advanced assemblies level 1 and level 2. I know there's going to be a level 3 and probably a level 4. It just depends. It may take too damn long for people to play the game, but I may do it anyway just because I like doing this stuff. Nobody may ever use it. It might be campaign for North Africa. Who knows? Okay, so advanced assemblies, like a lot of them are just improvements. This is a medium transport, and it carries 1 more point of fuel, and it has better burn capacity for orbital movement, interplanetary movement, and a little bit more efficient lift capability from planetary surfaces. Improved manufacturing robotics, what it does is make the site smaller instead of large that you have to push out to somewhere. It's now medium, which makes it a lot cheaper to get it somewhere and a lot easier to get it further away. Mining robotics, same thing. Okay, here's the fun one. Earth Space Elevator. This has its own section of rules. The first Earth Space Elevator is in Advanced Assemblies Level 1. And the person who draws it puts it in front of them and they immediately are able to invest in it. Now it costs $45 to finish this puppy off. Okay? Here's the thing. If other people also contribute to it, they too can gain prestige from its completion, not just the person who built it. If you look at the prestige table, largest contributor gets +5, second largest gets 3, third largest gets 2. Not only that, but the person who ends up putting the most into it gets free lift capability from Earth for the remainder of the game, okay? Which, that adds up real fast. That can make stuff a lot cheaper. You're basically just hauling it up an elevator to GEO. And other players only have to pay that player $1 per year. It's $1 billion. It's the smallest increment in the game. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. $1 billion a year. But they also get that same capability of unlimited lift to Earth orbit. Okay. Now they may resent having to pay another player for that, for operating the ESE, and that's all fine and well, because in Advanced Assembly Levels 2, see if I can find one. The other nations will have the opportunity to build their own. And you can see it's cheaper than the first one because, hey, you know how to do it now. Okay, so you do get the chance to build your own, and then you don't have to pay anybody anymore. But it's not a bad deal. It's a heck of a lot cheaper. Just getting a mining installation in Earth orbit costs $6. And, you know, if you do that over the course of 10 turns, that's $60 where it could have been 10. Big, big difference. That difference of 50 will buy you 4 more mining sites. Okay, so ESE, what can I say? It's a great thing, and someday it's going to happen. And everybody who thinks it won't, you're wrong. Okay, interplanetary vessel. Already covered this with the counters, but this is where you can first design them, first develop them, and first have them. What else we got? Deep space habitat. Anyway, you get the idea. This is basically how you get cool new stuff that does better, that allows you to go further on less fuel, carrying lighter payloads and so forth. Ideally, what it allows you to do is ramp up your exploration and make it more ambitious. Because right now, God knows, sending a mission from Earth to Jupiter on like 9 points of fuel on a heavy transport, not happening. It's just not going to happen. You could send a capsule with no men in it because it's so small, but what's the point? If you want to send men out there, if you want to send a colony, or, you know, a deep space habitat with a lander, maybe land on Europa, not happening. It's just, it's too much fuel. You can't do. Well, I take that back. Now, with the slingshot rules, which I hadn't been using before, it's possible. But boy, you're going to have to be something of a whiz to get that right. It's going to be so cool if you do, though. You're just going to be tickled pink. So we'll see. Advanced Assemblies 2, even better, more improvement. Big space stations. Kubrick Station, that's the wheel from 2001. That's this game version of it. The black stripe is solar panels all the way around. I mean, you still want solar power from something like that. And it's a large to get in orbit. That's $18 billion to put that puppy in orbit. So even at this point, you know, if you got the ESC bill, that's a lot of money to save. Now, it's $24 to build it, and all these things, the cost is also how much it costs to develop it. So you got to develop it first before you can actually start building the things. And then once it's in orbit, it has 4 construction points. It can build things. So you can start doing orbital assembly of ships. You don't have to pick them up from Earth and you know, boost them up in orbit or whatever. Okay. Better interplanetary vessels. Mars Space Elevator. Hey, if you can build it on Earth, once you demonstrated you can do it, why not on Mars? The only thing keeping you from doing it, construction points. You're going to have manufacturing and a colony on Mars. And in order for a manufacturing plant to generate construction points, you have to have a mine too. So it's not something you can just go out there and drop a space elevator down and tether it on the red planet. You've actually got to build this thing. You got to build the anchor platform, and you got to go up there, you know, and in geostationary orbit and build the end of the tether. Drop the cable down. Okay. Here's a really cool thing: atmospheric lander. I think it's cool. Nobody's built one yet, but the farthest I've gone is six years. So that's not surprising. Basically, it can land and take off. It's a single staged orbit. That's what it is. And you know, if you put it on a transport and along with the deep space habitat, you can go to Mars and and land on Mars for very little fuel and take off again. And ditto with Earth. The other places it can take off just based on, thrust from its rockets. When Saturn was in the game, you could also use it on Titan. Saturn's not in the game anymore, so that's not going to happen. We also have lunar space elevators, which cost $25, which you could build. I think that's it. Bigger heavy transports, 20 fuel points. That's it right now. Like I said, I've only done 6 years into the game because, darn it, I keep changing things. Keep finding things I don't like or things that could be better, God knows. I've gone through these bags over here. These are previous versions of the game, all the components I've made. Yeah. And a lot, that's probably half. The other half I've thrown out because there's no point in them. There's no point in these either, but for now, just like the wife said, well, why do you keep that crap? And I said, well, it shows how many evolutions this game has gone through. It's like documenting an effort. I don't know. That's all it is. But like I said, I've only got 6 turns in right now. I'd really like to get the opportunity to go deeper, and I think I'm going to get to finally this weekend. I have a willing victim who is coming over Saturday night, and he said he's willing to do it. So we'll fire it up and see what happens, and I'll give you an update then. Thanks. Okay, so one thing that's been puzzling me for the better part of the last couple of days on the questions I've been getting asked about this game design. There's been some excellent questions, don't get me wrong. Really good questions and based on so little information, because I haven't gone into great detail about how all this works and everything, and yet people are still coming out with some damn fun questions. So first and foremost, let me say that, and let me say thank you very much for some excellent questions. But I'm puzzled because there's one question that hasn't been asked. I know there's one guy who thinks he asked it, which he didn't really. He made a faulty assumption and then operated from there. So I'm not going to name names, but if you read the War Game forums thread on it, you'll probably guess who I'm talking about. The question I keep expecting is, well, how the heck do these mines and manufacturing sites and colonies that you're sending off to other places, how do they actually generate income? I think a lot of people are assuming, it's the only thing I can figure, a lot of people are assuming that this stuff is just magically coming back to Earth and being used, and that's not the case at all. That's not what I envision happening with what's going on in this game. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you have the ability to produce a robotic mine and refining system, and you even know how to make it, collapse down into itself with all its little robots that it needs and everything into a nice largish payload, and you send it to the moon, okay? And it lands softly on the moon. Now, what do you go to the moon for? At this point in this century, you're probably going for helium-3, okay? Ores and all that stuff, that's great if you're actually like building something on the moon, but initially, what do you want? You want helium-3, because that can lead to clean fusion. And I know for a fact that China in particular is very interested in clean fusion because they know they have got to get themselves off their coal-fired collective ass and come up with an energy solution that's long-term for their country. Burgeoning economy, burgeoning population, God knows. So you go for helium-3. Helium-3 is not a big deal getting back to Earth. You escape lunar gravity, you do a transit, injection transit back to Earth. Hell, you can even parachute the crap down with a heat shield from Earth orbit. Not a big deal. But the other stuff, the heavier stuff, that you normally envision for this kind of thing, that's where the economy is not so simple. Okay. At that point, if you're going to Mars, for instance, with a mine, two key things it's going to probably go after. One or the other, not both, obviously. Maybe. Second mine will do that. Oxygen, hydrogen for propellant. So from that point on, if you have a reusable self-landing rocket, like say SpaceX's Grasshopper, lands on Mars, leaves something behind, gets refueled by the mine, takes off, goes back to Earth, rinse and recycle. The other stuff, ores, probably quite a bit of ore. You're going to put that to the side. You can gather it, you can put it to the side. And it's not like that's going to go away. It's going to sit there until it gets used. So you've got these robotic mines and manufacturing plants churning out stuff wherever they are, doesn't matter, asteroid, Mars, moon, doesn't make any difference. At some point, somebody is going to want to use that stuff because A, you don't send a $12 billion probe of robotic mining facility to a heavenly body without a follow-up plan. Okay? You're planning on going there again. And again and again and again. Just stands to reason. I'm going to get my chicken turned over. B, you're not going to use it today, you're not going to use it next week or next month or maybe even next year. It might be a decade before you use it, but it's there and it's being made. And those little frickin' robots are running around mining shit day in and day out, not asking for pay raises, not asking for a pension plan, none of that shit. They're just doing their job. And they're piling this crap up and it's going to be there when you get there. And how much of a savings is that? Not just on, what you need to build something when you get there with humans, but what you don't need to send there. It's huge. It is potentially huge. NASA right now is working with a scaled down 3D printer that will take moon materials and build a habitable shelter with a huge 3D printer. I mean, to me, that's pretty freaking cool. I like that. That is how you get past the economic power curve. Things like that. So, to get back to the point, in the game, yeah, you're getting income and you're actually spending that to do other things. But in real world terms, most of the time, in most cases, what you're doing is you're stacking up ores, volatiles, what have you, at the site to be used at a later date. At great savings, I might add, because you didn't have to haul it to that place. Thanks, I just wanted to get that off my chest.